am, of course, from Texarkana. I went to Dunbar for 1 year. After that was forced integration. It was forced, that particular year, because administration wanted all of the teachers' children to attend the integrated schools. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave Dunbar, but my mother, they made me go. She said, "You're gonna go, period." We went to F. Ben Pierce, and which was later changed to Pine Street, because they were changing all of the schools to the street that they happened to be on. Goree School was on Lincoln Street, so they changed it to Lincoln Elementary. They took my grandfather's name off of it, which has since been changed back. Praise the Lord. During our first years at Texas Senior High, we encountered a great deal of adversity from teachers and students. We didn't have any student representation in government or in classes. When we came from Dunbar, we had class, the class president, the most beautiful, the most everything. We didn't have any representation at Texas High. As a matter of fact, there was a mural of the Confederate flag on the wall as we walked into the front of the school, big as that wall right there. So it reminded you that this was their school. Well, my being the militant person that I was, decided we needed to change that. We needed to have class presidents, class vice presidents. We needed to have cheerleaders. We needed to have majorettes. Now, we participated in the band, but we didn't have any like majorettes or cheerleaders or anything. So we formed the Black Student Union, of which we met at my house in secret because my mother's job was being threatened. And I did not realize that all of the things that I was doing was really threatening my mom's job. And she would tell me, y'all really shouldn't do that. She was very passive, I'd say passive aggressive. We have to keep this quiet. So we were having secret meetings at my house. And we decided we were going to protest. Now, this was my senior year in high school. I was in the top fourth of my class at that time. And we decided we were going to walk out because we did not have any class representation. We walked out of class. Everybody was about 200 black students. We walked out on the hill. I never will forget it. My mother was in a teachers meeting at her school, Spring Lake Park. A runner went down to the teachers meeting and told Miss Goree, please come here. You have to look at TV. She said, here I am, thinking that you in class. I go look at the television. You standing out on the hill with your nappy head and your fist raised in the air like Angela Davis trying to protest something. I said, well, if I didn't do it, who was going to do it? I'm the oldest of 6 children. Something had to change for my brothers and my sisters. So we had to change it. Now, we were met with dogs, with hoses, and we had never seen anything like that. And I just didn't realize that the police were going to surround us. Now, here we are. We were all dressed in black. Police were all around us. They had the fire hoses. They had the dogs. They had shields. And we were just trying to get class representation. So finally, Dan Haskins came out and he said he tried to calm everybody down. And several of the white students came out. So a fight ensued. and it went out onto the parking lot. It was a mess. It really was a mess. So we were suspended. Over 200 black students were suspended. About maybe 20 white students were suspended. And then we were expelled. Now this was my senior year in school. My mother wasn't gonna have that. But we couldn't get back in school. They weren't gonna let us back in school. So we had attorneys came down from Chicago and New York, and they lobbied to get us back in school. We were put back in school finally about 6 weeks before graduation. We could graduate under the caveat that we made up all of the work that we had missed since we had been expelled. So we did that. We had to do it. We didn't have a choice. And we all 200 of us, made up our work, got back in school, and we graduated. Now, I did not get my place back in the lineup of top fourth in class, but I did graduate, praise the Lord, and praise my mother and my grandmother, because it would have been unacceptable for the oldest of 6 children coming from a family of educators to not graduate. So there's my story in a nutshell.
That's a fabulous story. Can you talk a little bit about your grandfather, who the school was named after?
My great-grandfather.
Your great-grandfather. What did he do to get a school named after him?
My great-grandfather was an educator. He established Newtown. I don't know if anybody knew that, but he did. He and his brother, Virgil Goree, also, Virgil was the first president of the NAACP in Texarkana. He was eventually run out of Texarkana. They wanted him to work in the field or in a menial job, and he said he did not work like that. The only work he did was with a pen. He ended up moving to LA. My great-grandfather, Harrison G. Goree, donated the property that Goree School now is on. So, and he was not the first principal, he was the first principal at Newtown. And it carried on after that. My grandmother taught there, my mother taught there.
Oh, excellent. And can you talk a bit about how you organized the Black Student Union? Was that the name of it?
Black Student Union.
Yeah, how did you all come together? How many were there at the beginning? Like, what's the story of you all coming together?
Okay. We had little secret meetings at first at school, and then we had to go to our homes because we knew that administration was getting word of something underlying, and there was trouble. There was trouble in Texarkana. And first it was a small group of Black students, and then the group got larger and larger, and it was just word of mouth. We passed notes, we called, and like I said, we met at our house in the dining room, and as my mother would pass by, she'd say, "What?" Nothing. She could hear from the backyard to the front yard. But we did not want her to get in trouble, and I knew her job was being threatened at that time because she had told me many times, you know, if I don't work, we're gonna have serious problems. But I felt like if we didn't do it, if we didn't make the changes wouldn't be made. Like I said, I'm the oldest of 6 children. My sisters and my brothers would not have had a chance unless somebody else took up that mantle and started protesting.
So it sounds as though your mother knew what was going on. She wasn't stopping you,
Right.
but she was asking you to be careful.
That's right.
So in some ways, she could have had a heavier hand.
Yes, she could have.
Uh-huh.
But she knew that something had to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that. The mural on the wall was the first thing that had to go. They protested against that more than anything else. They wanted that Confederate flag on that wall, but it had to go. So they finally painted over it. And that was a small victory for us. Actually, that was a huge victory for us because that had been there since the school had been built. So that happened. And then after, I understand, after the riots, they had class president, they had class vice presidents, they had cheerleaders, they had majorettes, they had lots of class participation. Prior to that, they didn't have any of that.
So the change happened.
So the change was made.
Yeah. If you could envision and had the power to make your vision come true, what would education be like? Now, yeah. Like if you had a magic wand and whatever you envisioned came to fruition, what would it be?
Well, we would have African American studies. That's something that my children, I don't believe, ever had. My oldest daughter wrote a paper about who she thought was her idol, and she wrote it about me, which I was flattered. And I told her the story of how we were expelled from school, and she was flabbergasted. She had never heard anything like that. She said, well, what were you fighting for? And why were you fighting? That just didn't, it was so foreign to her. She said, didn't you have any white friends? No. I came from Dunbar High School. All of my friends were black. All of my idols were black. I didn't have any white friends, didn't really want any. But at that point, my daughter was, I don't understand that. And after I told her what we went through to get changes made, she finally understood. She got an A+ on that paper, thank you very much. But education now, like I said, African American studies would be taught, and not just about Martin Luther King, although he was a great man. But there were so many other great men and women in our history that need to be taught, and explained to. Why were they great? What did they do? Reading, writing, and arithmetic is taught. The only thing that I see that isn't taught is our history. And I believe you have to know where you came from to know where you're going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you satisfied?
I'm satisfied.
Well, thank you. I'm satisfied as well.